All right, welcome everyone to the Northwest San Pedro Neighborhood Council Port/Environmental Sustainability Committee meeting. This is our second meeting of the year. I'm serving as your chair and Ms. Henry serving as the vice chair of this committee. We're hoping a few more members of the committee will attend. We have regrets from Mr. Goldfarb. As far as attendance, we're not expecting him, but that's been prearranged. So that's an excused absence. And I have not heard from any others. So for the purposes of our notes, we hope they'll be joining us. So as I called it to order, I'm going to do the roll call for who should be here. So Thomas Norman, Vice Chair, present. Gwen Henry.
Present.
Okay. Pat Nave. Looks like not present. Jason Herring. Not here. Craig Goldfarb, excused. Dave Samperio. Not here. Peter Roth. Not here. And Mary Chan. All right, so that's the roll, and we'll update it as things change. The second part, again, the students have already done this, but just for the record, I have noted that Emily Crane is here as a student and Haley Burns, so we will communicate that to Mr. Brunke. We appreciate your attending, and I think you're gonna really enjoy the meeting tonight. There's a presentation. We don't always have presentations, but that might be particularly interesting. So now, are there any general public comments on non-agenda items? If so, we're just going to listen, and you can speak for 2 minutes. Welcome, Mr. Franz. You are recognized.
Thank you. As pro of at least the environment and sustainability component of this committee, I think it's relevant to point out that this coming Saturday is National Public Lands Day. And there are a range of events in different places to engage citizens in enjoying and preserving, protecting, improving parks. And one here in San Pedro, if anybody is free from 9 to 12 on Saturday morning, there will be a volunteer event at White Point Nature Preserve at the end of Western Avenue. And you can find more information and sign up. And for the students, you can usually get community service credit for serving on these volunteer day activities. So the website is pvplc.org for the Palos Verdes Peninsula Land Conservancy, which oversees the event. And there will be coffee and probably a few snacks there, and usually they get 100 people or so, although it may be hotter than it is today, which would have been perfect. Gee, can we declare today Saturday? That's it.
Thank you very much. And just for people who didn't hear, it was pvplc.org if you're interested. That was, correct me if I'm wrong, Saturday, what time?
Saturday, a Saturday from 9 to 12.
9 to 12. Okay. Thank you. That was very timely announcement. I appreciate your coming. 9 to noon. All right. Any other comments? And I would encourage the students not to be shy if they wanted to say something. This is a great opportunity to have a comment on the topic of the port, the environment, or sustainability. And if you'd like to speak, please just raise your hand and I will allow you to talk. Okay. Okay, we'll move on to the agenda. Item 3, typically, we might have some motions that are before us. Currently, there are no port-related motions that I've received. Just checking in case somebody sent them to the vice chair, but I don't think we've received anything, so there's nothing to act on there. Nor were there any motions for us to consider, not that we have a quorum to vote right now. The other thing I want to put on the regular agenda, I've worked to set up an agenda. So topics that I've surveyed the new committee members, things they wanted to regularly have some space on. So we're free to speak about them because we have agenda requirements. The people who would ask me to add this to the agenda aren't here, so I don't have anything to report. But perhaps someone else does. Anybody have anything to report on the Port Capital Improvement Program, Project Development Committee, PAP? I know last time Mr. Goldfarb and Ms. Henry did have some conversation about ideas, so I'll defer to Ms. Henry if you wanted to put anything on the record for this meeting. And you're muted.
Uh-oh.
Hi, I was trying to get through to Pat.
We have a problem because
Hold
two
on.
of our computers aren't working and I'm on the other one on meeting.
Okay, so we have Pat is having a technical problem.
Thought it was next week.
No, it's today. Well, we're in the meeting and I have to talk on a few things. But if you have anything to discuss about the PAIP or anything of that nature, we're actually having that topic at the moment. I can put you on speak.
Maybe phone in.
Hi, Pat.
Are you there?
Yeah, can you phone in?
I guess I'm gonna have to do that. I thought our meeting was next week.
No, it's today. The PAIP, we're discussing it right now, and I'm sure you have a few topics to discuss port-wise. So we will wait for you, and we'll move forward on other agenda topics while we wait.
Here's the other thing is my computer is exceeding.
If
Thomas, thank you for the patience. I'm about to text Pat the phone number for calling in.
Thank you. All right, so we will move through the agenda pretty quickly. Number 5 would be action items from the previous meeting. The one action item we had was setting the date, which I see at least one member didn't get the memo that it was this, which is the traditional Tuesday for the port meeting. We went with the port meeting was a time David, I think Jason thought Tuesdays were better. So this date was picked in consultation via email and conversation. So hopefully that will continue to be good. That was really kind of the only action item was to do that. And then comments and suggestions from stakeholders and committee members. Maybe have to get back to that. And then we don't have any attendees to the Joint Environmental Sustainability Committee meeting, but I do want people listening to know ordinarily the chair, vice chair, or another committee member would attend that meeting and we would have an update. There's a lot of work, and I want Dr. Liu to know this too. There are 3 San Pedro neighborhood councils, central and coastal as well, which have expressed interest, as Wilmington has expressed interest in the air quality in terms of environment and sustainability. What we've done to try to increase our impact with our council member for Council District 15 and for different agencies such as the port is to sometimes meet together as a larger group. As you can see, sometimes attendance is a little bit light, so that allows us to get more interested people together and more experts. So that's another area I've recommended. Perhaps you speak to the larger group with your findings, so that so there's a very little update on that. But I wanted the students and community members, and Dr. Liu to hear that this committee in the past had actually looked at purchasing purple monitors specifically to get more real-time monitoring of the pollution. We became very concerned last year when the port was so backed up. We thought there were probably a lot of emissions from all those ships that were in the harbor, docking very close. We wanted to get a sense. We found it's very challenging with the city budgeting process for us to buy monitors and do it ourselves. So this group has talked about maybe taking some of those funds that have been allocated and contracting with folks. So just wanted, it was really neat to see the work you were already doing, the success you've had with the one grant for the paper you've published. And then I'll share with the group, you actually got money for a second grant that measured not only external pollution, but I know my home participated. We had a monitor inside looking at what am I breathing in my house, as well as what is the air like outside. And I know from the survey, some of what you're looking at was how much am I cooking? Are my windows open? Am I using air conditioning? Some other factors there to give us a better sense of how the air quality is affecting the community. I don't want to steal all your thunder, but just wanted at least to acknowledge why I think at least 2 of us are excited you're here, and just to share what we've been doing that might result in something we could partner with the university or partner with you in the future. All right. And then Gwen, any success you think? Pat, do you think he's got the information he needs? So I'll watch for him to call in.
Yeah, I believe that he will have a lot to say. I did want to explore USC, Andrea Hricko and Edward Aval of USC might also want to collaborate on this or be able to participate in some way so that we can continue to have those studies to a larger group. And any information and data that is collected within anything that we can possibly do can join their very long-term, the effects of pollution on children and a few other health-related issues.
So seeing we're on that discussion, I will recognize Dr. Liu if you wanted to start, by just introducing yourself, the type of research you've been doing. So those listening have a sense of what you're doing. And in particular, I loved in your paper, you talked about citizen science or citizen, contribution, and we're all citizens. So maybe you'll talk a little bit about this too, in ways that some of the students listening might think, wow, that could be a great career. They might be future students.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much, Dr. Norman. So I'm Tianjun Liu, assistant professor from Department of Earth Science and Geography at CSU Dominguez Hills. So I actually have joined Dominguez Hills for only 2 years. So basically my research centers on using sensor technologies, geospatial techniques to develop healthy communities, especially through air quality and transportation studies. So during the past 2 years, my focus in this area, most importantly, trying to do some community-based air monitoring campaigns with the engagement of local residents, including Dr. Norman as one of my members as well. And also, I have also looked at how warehousing activities are impacting our climate and our environmental conditions, especially for air quality. So this is another grant I recently won. So I was a PI on that project, leading this work and trying to understand what would happen if we utilize some of the state land to serve for the purpose of warehouses, because that's something the local government has, the state has thought about, and we were trying to look at how this would impact our environments versus to the housing demands we have, whether to use the state land for housing people. So that is also something I've been doing. And in terms of this community air monitoring program, I will share with you more in my slides. That way you can have more context. Yeah. Thank you.
About how many citizens have you involved? And one thing that's nice is that you find citizens in different locations and they host the monitors for you. So in your first project, remember how many people you had in your second project?
Yeah, we have we have invited 22 residents. So the reason why we got 22 is not because we cannot recruit more, it's because of my budget limitation. So that was in my first year, which is last year. So I bought several prepared monitors. As you all have known, this is low-cost sensor, so each costs around $350, including the shipping and tax. And also another limitation I have is that when I recruit residents, I know that people, for example, in San Pedro, are very interested in participating in my pilot work, but I cannot recruit only residents from this area, so that I have to recruit participants from Compton, from San Pedro, from Wilmington, from Gardena, Carson, Linwood, those communities. So basically, it's 11 communities around CSU Dominguez Hills. Yes.
And is this Pat that's joined us? I promoted you to panelist if you're 660.
Yes, I believe that is Pat.
Go ahead, Pat.
I'm here.
Okay. All right. So what we have Dr. Liu here, and I kind of gave him so we wouldn't spend his whole night. If you're okay, listening to his presentation, and then we'll move on. Dr. Liu's the one that's done some research with purple monitors and was just describing his study. You know, he can't do all San Pedro, he's got to do representative, but if we decide to purchase some monitors, maybe that data could be used for his study, allow him to actually expand it for his third one. So just wanted him to have that context. So we've talked about that for a year, you know, as something to do. Is that okay, Pat, or did you want to have some words before we let Dr. Liu talk about his project?
Oh, well, I can do it either way. You know, I've had a couple of conversations with some folks at Harbor Community Benefits Foundation, and it's an ideal place to provide funding and to, you know, to for a project that does what we wanted to. So I was wondering whether Dr. Liu could design a program that, you know, find a way to connect the existing purple air monitors out there so we can kind of get a pattern and a readout for, you know, particulates, and then present it to HCBF and see if they'll fund it.
Mhm.
That's it in a nutshell.
So let's let Dr. Liu, why don't you do your presentation, then we'll have a great conversation about, you know, our reaction and maybe some ways that we might be able to work together.
Okay, sounds great.
And I've enabled screen sharing. Pat won't be able to see the slides, but this is recorded, so he'll be able to watch it on YouTube later. All right, Dr. Liu.
Okay. Okay, is my slide?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So as you can see from this title, so this is the recently published work. So I use this title because I want to focus two major words. First is citizen science. So again, this project will not be successful without community engagement, especially from local residents, because that's why I started this project, because the local residents are really interested to know, you know, how bad is the air around them. And I want to also clarify that this is the result from low-cost sensor. So it's different from the regulatory markers set up by, you know, US EPA or AQMD. So it's not something, even though it's not something like we call it gold standard, but still it's something that we can refer to get a general pattern of the local area. So as you know that air pollution is really a concern for residents in Southern California. So this is also where CSUDH campus is located. So I started this project by launching 3 units of purple air sensors first at the campus. And then I found that, you know, even for common residents like our students, I asked them, hey, do you know anything about the, you know, local area, like your air quality stuff? They said that they have a feeling that the air quality is bad, but they do not have access to, you know, the information that they can, you know, directly say, hey, today is good or bad. But you can open your cell phone to see the AQI, which is air quality index, which is a composite index for you to understand the local air quality. But again, if you're looking at the regulatory monitors in this area, we have insufficient number of monitors. So that's the reason why, you know, we need more monitors to give us more information to understand the air quality exposure. And that's why I started this project. It's called Community Air Monitoring Program. So my focus actually is more related to disadvantaged communities. I did include areas like San Pedro, but we also have some, you know, underserved communities here in South LA area. So I use citizen science and local sensors. As you can see that basically in my last year's study, I placed this local sensor 1 unit per household, but outside of their house, not inside. So this project actually tracks the air pollution for outdoor exposure. And then it results in 22 households. So I did recruit 4 participants from San Pedro area. So as you can see that here are the 4 points, the green dots on this map. But also I want to clarify that on this map, you can see the dark colors indicates area that's you know, that were identified by pollution burden areas. So which means that some of these monitors are, you know, located in these highly burdened pollution area, but other places may not be identified as these high pollution areas. And I started this project. I launched it two times. One is from June to August, and one is from August to December. And during each phase, the monitor will be placed for at least 2 weeks for each household. And my focus is PM 2.5, which is particulate matter. So basically, you can understand like it's more related to traffic air pollution, and also during summertime, if we have wildfire, so wildfire smoke is another source of PM 2.5. And I also added some quality assurance and quality control process to better adjust the data, because the raw data from prepare sensors alone would not be used to identify the spatial variation and also the temporal patterns of the local area. That's the reason why I also got some help from the South Coastal AQMD to co-locate prepare sensor with their regulatory monitors that trying to get a correction equation to adjust all data. And here you can see this is the kind of the general results we have. As you can see that we have among all the 8 communities I've monitored, San Pedro actually demonstrated lowest within the study area. And also we found another study, which is a local study. They found like freeway emissions were the major sources of PM 2.5 and had much higher emission rates compared with sources at the port of LA. So which also kind of reflects the pattern I found in my study. Like you can see Linwood here and also Compton here actually showed higher concentrations as compared to San Pedro area. And aside from the spatial patterns, I also use this to track the day, the hour of day patterns, and also different patterns among different seasons and between weekdays and weekends. So you can see that in terms of weekends, we can see like actually during weekends, we're exposed to higher air pollution exposure in this area. So also I've tried to look at how the air pollution concentrations are correlated with some of these population characteristics, and also traffic density, poverty, unemployment, and housing burden. So as you can see here, basically the air pollution are positively correlated with traffic density, poverty, unemployment rate, and housing burden, which doesn't surprise us at all. But also, if you're looking at the high percentage of the area in terms of the percentage of Hispanic population, we can also see a positive correlation, which means that in places where we have higher PM 2.5 concentrations, there are more Hispanic population residing in those areas. And due to time, I don't want to spend too much time to clarify, to discuss some technical stuff. But if you're interested in this study, feel free to reach out to me, or you can download this paper via Google Scholar. So it's freely accessed by everyone. But I also want to mention that we do need more monitors in the area in order to capture more states, more spatial and temporal patterns, because as I said, I only had 22 monitors around this big area, and this area is housed for more than 630,000 people. So that means for among these large people, we only have 22 monitors, and these monitors may not be representative of the entire region. So that's why, as we have more, community engagement and community help, we can build denser network to capture both spatial and temporal patterns of the air quality issues here. And also, it will be very helpful for us to promote environment justice and inform urban planning policies. So I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Dr. Liu. I mean, we do see this is a social justice issue. We see it's an economic issue. We're lucky San Pedro was the healthiest of the communities. The pollution seemed to be much worse as you got towards Carson, Compton. Wilmington was worse than we were. But what this committee has discussed and what the overall neighborhood council has discussed is some permanent monitors located in areas around San Pedro to just track over time the port, right? I know your studies, you come, you leave them and you take them. So even if you're not the leader of this, if we work with this group that Pat Nave's going to talk about, the data, we'd want to make that available to you. There might be a neat study to just look at cargo patterns, right? As ships or type of ships, maybe there'll be some changes, because even though we're at a good level, we might want to be at an even better level. All right, I want to recognize attendees. The first hand up is Gwen Henry. Do you want to be a panelist again? I don't know how you fell over there, but please, Gwen. Oh, there she is. Yes, Vice Chair Henry.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, I got kicked off. It's an older laptop. Dr. Liu, do you have certain targeted areas that you're most interested in order to really get a lot of coverage? I'm sure that clusters of monitors probably won't benefit. Also, with your study, of course, it isn't just the port that we have an impact with. We have refineries and everything else, and the freeway. I've actually received some interest from some businesses that happen to be right there at the freeway. And would that be part of your air monitoring area? Would that be of interest to you to find that out? And I don't know if you're also comparing the amount of particulate with the changes in the wind flow. Of course, I believe San Pedro generally benefits from the fact that the winds generally go from west to east. And so Long Beach, Carson, and those places are definitely going to be much more impacted on a general basis. But do you keep up with those trends as well and compare it to weather patterns?
Yeah, thank you so much for your question. So for your first question, my targeted area are neighboring communities around CSUDH. So right now, I focus more on like Compton, Linwood, Gardena, Wilmington, Harbor Gateway, San Pedro, and Wilmington. So these kind of neighboring communities are what I care most, especially for this study. The reason is that we have the most number of students from these neighboring communities. So that is one motivation I have. But also, like you said, if I'm looking for like a targeted area, I haven't thought about like getting like targeted residents just specifically from San Pedro. So that's kind of my answer. And the second question in terms of businesses near transportation segments. So I want to clarify that yes, PM2.5 is a very important air pollution, but it's not specifically, traffic related. If you are talking about like really traffic related air pollution, we should monitor black carbon and also NOx, like other kinds of species, pollutants, which is also a little bit challenging for these local sensors. So if you're looking at local sensors on the market, most of them are talking about PM2.5, which they say it's more like a regional pattern for the area. And to answer your third question, so I do have this, this year, I not only monitor the outdoor activity, the outdoor air pollution, but also monitor the indoor air pollution because I want to know, for example, let's say we have this outdoor air pollution exposure, but what that means to your daily life because you stay most of the time indoors. So that's another thing I consider, but I did not include the wind direction and wind intensity in my model or in my study. The reason is that I'm not an expert in this atmospheric environment aspects. So I'm more dealing with urban planning and the built environment, things like that. Yeah. I hope I answered your question. Yeah.
Thank you. Thomas, thank you very much, Dr. Liu. Thomas, we have Mary Chan. She has joined. So thank you, Mary.
Yep, I did want to recognize that too. So welcome, Mary. We have made our way through most of the agenda, but I want to back up on the agenda. Now, if you got to hear some of Dr. Liu's presentation, he was sharing what he's done with purple air monitors. That's been a topic of the Northwest Neighborhood, Council. We even had budgeted some money to buy some, and then we found the city won't let us buy them because we don't have, it's hard to put them on city property. We're better off contracting with someone else. So there's a little bit of background there. But what you might want to do is just share any comments or suggestions on topics that you wanted to discuss this evening. And maybe even just introduce yourself to the group.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Dr. Liu. 你好，我是
Hi,
Mary.
Mary. Yes.
我是 Mary. 你好.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, sorry, I'm driving, but I'm listening, so I'm sorry. I'm doing two things at once, and I'm gonna just let you go on. Thank you.
But thank you so much for tuning in. And then Pat Nave, I wanted to give you the same opportunity. Sorry, there was confusion about the date, but if you wanted to introduce yourself to the group, and I know you had a few comments.
I think my question to Dr. Liu would be, or to you, Tom, be whether Dominguez Hills would be interested in designing a study that would look at the air quality, particularly PM 2.5s, maybe PM 8s and PM 10s in the residential areas, in the community, local communities, San Pedro and Wilmington in particular, but also up to Carson and around Dominguez Hills. Sounds like it might be a separate study. It's that kind of thing, and then it would use purple air monitors that are already in the area, because many of those, you can click on them at any given time and see what the air quality is in that area every 4 minutes, and then add some additional purple air monitors, then present. We would certainly, I think we probably would agree to assist Cal State Dominguez Hills in making a presentation to the Harbor Community Benefits Foundation and ask them to fund it. And they might very well do that. The Harbor Community Benefits Foundation receives money from the port for mitigation, as mitigation money. The users of the port, the shipping terminals and so forth, pay into a fund that's administered by the Harbor Community Benefits Foundation, and then it's spent on air projects in the port area. So what do you think? Is this something that fits any studies that you're doing, or would a new one have to be designed? And is there any interest in doing that?
I'll let Dr. Liu respond, and then we'll go to Vice Chair Henry. And Dr. Liu, if you could share, how big was the grant for your last study, right? How much money does it take to do what you've done?
So yeah, for my last grant, I actually received 2 grants, like internal grants, altogether. It's around $130,000. Yeah, $130,000. So mostly to fund the equipment, like I purchased, I think more than 22 purple air units, and also I had 2 students to help me monitor, reach out to community members to monitor it, and I also have some equipment fees, costs for that. But altogether, if you're talking about monitoring, I don't think it costs a lot. But I think the challenge is that, like I said, first of all, you have to really design where you want to put those monitors, and second, how long you would put that monitors. Because when I did that, I only put there for 2 weeks, which is challenging, right? So purple air monitors can report data in every 2 minutes. But the challenge is that if you remove it, you install that during summer, or you install that during winter, the data will be different. and also during the time when we have the port, when we had the ships waiting on the port, that is also different during like as compared to current time. So that's another challenge we have. Last challenge is that, you know, sometimes people are a little bit worried about, you know, tracking this air pollution, especially in terms of science communication. When they say that purple air really report high values, they are panicked. They think that it's high values. But I want to clarify that, as I said, this is low-cost sensors. We need extra quality assurance and quality control process to really, you know, adjust the data so that we can share this data to the public. Or else it's like, you know, like the AQMD will receive a lot of complaints from the residents saying, hey, you know, we look at the purple air websites and it has, you know, very high values for this air pollution, then people will get very annoying. So AQMD has also responded that to others share that, you know, do not be panicked. You have to be very careful about reporting your data using these local sensors. Yeah.
Vice Chair Henry?
Well, with that, what is considered in Los Angeles a control air quality? Because generally within the Los Angeles basin, we already even those on the very close coast still are impacted by air quality. What are the variables there? And yes, absolutely, you made a very good point in that while the ships were docked out in the harbor, that those kind of variables. Is there, my next question is, do you hope to make this a much longer term study? Because that's what we would also like to hope for, is that this community, I believe there are many people who would be very willing to be part of a very long-term study, and you could have those sensors at a location for a very long time. And to Pat's mention of the harbor benefits funding, the last cycle just completed, submissions were made, so that could be looked at for the next year. So that would be coming up again. I believe that the deadline is, what is it, Pat, August, or is it July?
I don't know, but I don't, that's not the only method for funding that is out here. From what I'm hearing,
Yeah.
It sounds like what we might have to do, excuse me, you sit down, excuse me, and say, look, these are the things we want. We want a long-term project. We want a reporting project, one that the community can have an understanding of what the particulate matter is in the community and so forth, and then have the HCBF put out a call for proposals to do a study, something like that. I mean, we've got good support there, and I'm pretty sure we can get them to do it. In fact, I'm sure we can, but we've got to have something to take to them.
Yeah, we you know, you provide the expertise, Dr. Liu. So, you know, maybe we'll work on where we want the monitors, what we want, because we're more interested in a regular monitoring, and we want somebody to reassure us, you know, that because I've had the port worry too that, oh, we're going to be worried, but I want to make sure they're not managing and just saying, oh, don't worry about it when we should worry. I want a scientist that I trust to say, yeah, no, it's not, you know, bad, because when the level spiked and the boats were there, you know, I think I expect the air was worse, right? Even if, you know, I was told I had to wait a year for them to do their calculations. I'm guessing you might be able to do those calculations adjustments in less than a year. So we would know if we're going to, you know, maybe get sick or be more at risk. Because the other thing I wanted to share, I saw in your paper, is you're looking to see how it correlates with sleep, anxiety, right? You know, negative mental health effects. You know, maybe it'll take a while to find that, but there is some research showing that this pollution has an effect on the health of the community, which is what we're elected, you know, to do, to make sure we're giving honest information. We're the ones speaking up for them and telling, you know, the port, you know, we really need to mitigate. We need to do better because we're harming folks. I've seen studies on Wilmington and areas of Long Beach where they've measured learning loss among 6, 7, 8-year-olds because of the level of pollution they're subjected to, which is just, you know, it's heartbreaking.
Yes.
Yes, exactly.
So thank you. And I know I've got a meeting to run, but I'm very grateful for you to take some time out to share your data with us, Dr. Liu. You're invited to stay. I want to move on with the work of that. But we will use you as a resource. I'll keep you informed if we're able to do things. And I just hope there'll be some way we can continue to collaborate. And if at the very least we can just give you data that maybe you or some future students could just look at that's being collected, and that might help. And might help your funds go a little further too. You might instead just do smaller incentives for people to do the survey that goes along with that, and just monitor the survey data with the existing purple air monitors. That might help you get a little bit more bang for your buck. Any other questions from attendees before I move on from our guest speaker? Okay, so then I wanted to go back to maybe Pat, if you wanted to help this newer combined committee. Help us kind of set our agenda for the coming year when we look at what should we be looking at with port capital improvement programs, project development committee, PAP funding update. We had agendized discussion of that. You have a lot of experience there. So some things we should start to be thinking about and putting on our list of things that we want to accomplish. That was one theme I learned as a new chair. People want to make sure we're starting to get to action items, things that we can actually start to work on, and we can see something that we've accomplished, say by December and March and in June.
Are you calling on me?
Yep, Pat. So if you want to get us started on the
Okay.
conversation, there's some specific actions we should start taking on the port capital improvement, PAP.
Yeah, there are some things going on PAIP. I know that a couple of commissioners are pushing the port to make it a kind of a permanent thing for it. And I know that one of the candidates for council office is devising a program that would be more similar to what goes on in Long Beach, where it's a certain percentage of port revenues rather than net profits, that sort of thing. I have noticed in the last couple of years that the port has changed its reporting, its public reporting of income and expenditures and so forth. So it's not as easy to go online and look at the income statements, the P&Ls basically. So if we can find a way to make it known, or if we decide that it's not suitable, for understanding and something like that, maybe we can get the port to go back to the old method of reporting, for example. So that whole area of economic reporting basically is an area we could explore. My real area that I'm concerned about is commenting on port environmental documents. That's, if I had to say that there's anything I'm interested in, that's pretty much it. The rest of it, is I'll leave to others. And I'll keep on doing it. I've been doing it for this last year. I'll be happy to keep on doing that. And I think when you and I talked, Tom, I think I mentioned one other thing, and I can't remember what it is now.
I remember we talked about these topics. I do agree, and if you can help guide me, or if someone else in the committee can guide me to those income statements, I'd like to put that in the agenda for the next meeting, where we just go through and look at how the money is being spent, kind of react to that and see what's being spent on environmental things. I also, Jason, I wanted to recognize that Jason's here, so he's here for attendance for the minutes. And Jason, if you wanted to take a quick second to introduce yourself, and then if you wanted to chime in on if you have any thoughts on, on the current topic, things we should be looking for from the port, and then we'll try to shift gears into the environmental sustainability.
Hi guys, sorry for being a little late. My name is Jason Herring. I've been with the Planning and Land Use Committee in Northwest for a number of years now. I live here in San Pedro near Peck Park. I'm a big advocate of things to enhance our experience with the park. I have worked with many technology companies over my career, former aerospace engineer. I currently work at a data science software company. So I like to approach problems with data and find solutions from what we discover. So that's a little background about me. As far as the topic at hand, you mean with what we could on exactly what topic would you like input?
Well, we're trying to set an agenda for the year, right? So I have feedback. We don't want to just talk about issues, and we want to be careful to focus on things within our area, within San Pedro or the harbor. So as a member, I wanted you to take an opportunity to say, even if you don't have a specific idea, carve out a few things for me as chair to try to collect information. Like I had our speaker on air quality that's come up. But I think we've also discussed, trying to unlock a little bit more of the port money that could help us with environmental projects, could maybe help with park restoration, right? Getting a sense of that. So if you had any ideas on, or even wanted to volunteer to, do a little bit of research, in areas that you could come to the next meeting and we could give you some time to share with the group. So just trying to invite people in, and I'll give Mary that same opportunity. Next.
Sure. So the air quality measurement sensors is something I have on my house, so I can just say me too on that one. I know that's already in motion, so it doesn't need to be restated. I'm concerned with traffic and public transit projects around and adjacent to the port, and the possibility of bringing light rail into San Pedro, which would affect port property. Since the red car project has been scrapped and somewhat torn up, that leaves a sort of a gaping hole. I know there is a transportation plan. There's a consultant that's supposed to be working on these things. I haven't had much of a update on that project for a while, so I'm keenly interested in reducing our traffic impacts around the port that's on port property and adjacent to it. Any waterfront improvements, I'm an advocate of nautical recreation. I'm a big sailboat sailor and a sailboat racer, and so I really enjoy our waterfront and all the wonderful things that can be done on it. So any way to improve the interface between the water and the land, I'm an advocate of those projects as well. So some things off the top of my head.
Okay, that's fantastic. And one of the meetings I've attended in this capacity, showed for folks that aren't aware that the light rail stopping at Harbor College is quite a ways away from San Pedro. So, the extent we're disappointed that, and we might want to, work on a resolution, asking the new council after the elections, right? Why, or the red car project, as you mentioned. So, we want to come up with a list of things some action we might take that would have a resolution or something. Yes, Vice Chair Henry.
I wanted to reinforce that, the rail with Measure M, it stops at Torrance. You just mentioned that actually there's some talk of light rail at Harbor College. Is it really going to stop there?
There's two projects. Well, there's two projects. One is the existing former Green Line, which is approaching the current route through Torrance. The other one is the Vermont corridor, which they are exploring and have not yet made a decision on the mode of transportation. The options are bus, shared lanes, bus, rapid transit, and light rail. So there's a study going on. That study stops at basically PCH, coming down Vermont to PCH. And right now, the Green Rail terminus in their current plan goes no farther than PCH. So if you go back to the 2009 transportation study that LA Metro did, they showed many different route terminations, including, basically the port's call area at the time, interfacing with the red car, and use the red car for transit around the harbor. Right. They show a line that goes connects to San Pedro and also connects to Long Beach across the port property there. So I've got the studies we can look at. Obviously, those are a bit out of date now. A lot of things have changed, and I think there's probably even more pressure than there was when those studies were created to advocate for this type of transit. So
well, considering the entire entertainment hub that they're doing at West Harbor, getting people in and out efficiently, it seems to be absolutely key. At one time historically, this area attracted 100,000, 200,000 people for the Fisherman's Festival, if I recall. That was one estimate that I saw from the 1950s, 200,000 people actually, which was kind of amazing. But with that,
Well, they
Wait,
had light rail back then.
I know the red car. I've been actually researching the red car, and it was just amazing. I am still perplexed at the decision to remove that. I mean, at San Diego and other places, when you have this nostalgic trolley system that goes through, it's a really big attractant, and it's a great way to move people. It's very, the Grove even put its own in, brand spanking new, because of that nostalgia and the fun of riding one of those things. Anyway, in regards to the environmental issues with the port, I'm hoping that all of us can possibly get on the ports of LA and Long Beach email system. I don't know if Christopher Cannon, if there is updates of when those things are released. Generally, what Pat and I have discussed on regular occasions is that they tend to release these things at Thanksgiving, when everybody's on holiday, Christmas, when everybody's on holiday. The annual reports as to the TEUs and everything are delivered at the end of the year as well. So, and the projections for the upcoming year. I'm hoping that we'll also discuss the C40 meeting that is coming up. I hope that we can be involved in that in an impactful way.
And for the audience, Gwen, especially the students, can you describe the acronym TEU and what C40 is?
Oh, yes. Okay. So each cargo container, each one of those boxes is considered a TEU. And Pat, you're going to have to tell me what TEU actually stands for. But
20-foot equivalent unit.
Equivalent unit, yeah.
20-foot equivalent unit. A 40-foot container counts as 2 TEUs.
yeah.
Yes. T is
So-
20, yeah.
And what has happened is that over a very long time, the port of Los Angeles, Long Beach, we now bust records. This port busts records nationally. This is the #1 complex for transporting goods. This is a monumental ports system over here. And what we move in regards to material goods goes all the way to the Mississippi River. Half the United States is supplied through these 2 ports. And so when they every year when they talk about, David Sampario, another one of our committee members, will be able to give a lot of explanation about the inner workings of the port. But it's fascinating that there's larger and larger ships, and my TV went on, of course, so I got to turn this sucker off. Over the years, it's just every year, it's more and more of these containers being moved, and it's.
And I just want to, so we keep the time.
Yeah.
Got the importance to use, and then C40.
C40, yeah. Thank you. So what's happening is that this is the first. There's a big study going on. The Port of Shanghai and the Port of Los Angeles and Long Beach are getting together to try to create a zero emissions shipping. All of the ships out there, the old bunker fuel, it's like black soot and smoke that's poured out. They're looking at the shipping industry, bringing the shipping industry in, the train industry in, the truck industry in, and try to create the very first plan for making all of shipping zero emission, no more pollution. And this is a monumental effort. Just like the Clean Air Action Plan, and if you students want to come by, and we'll talk about that one later, this port has always been on the forefront of environmental change. And the C40 conference is coming up in November. And the ports of Shanghai and LA, they have a corridor that they move goods. This is a very big corridor, and they've been coming up with a plan, and in November they're going to release it and announce it and going to go ahead and execute this plan. And all the other ports, all the other shipping corridors are going to follow suit. This is monumental global changing environmental stuff, and it's all right here. And
And the C40 stands for the 40 mayors of 40 of the largest cities. I think this was going to be hosted in Buenos Aires, right? So this is a world event, I believe you're talking about, with the focus on dealing with the climate crisis, just to give people the context that aren't familiar. So, you know, if you go to their website, you'll see there's a countdown. It's 28 days away. So that's great. We've got that on the list of things to discuss and take action on future meetings. You know, sealing the sailing ship, right? I've seen some studies where they're looking at putting sails on some ships, right? Going back to the old days of Magellan, and sails are zero emission, right? So, you know, be fascinating to see what people are coming up with there. All right, are there any stakeholders who have any questions or any things they would like us to discuss? And students, you know, we're leaving the world to you. So are there things you'd like to see those of us that are trying to advocate, or other stakeholders? Mary, how do you feel about the areas we're looking at tackling? Would you like to add anything? I see your hands raised.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Thomas. So with that CD40, sounds super interesting. As you know, I come from Hong Kong, where it's the other side of the port, and I'm used to seeing all that from Asia. Is there any actionable things we could do? Because talking is kind of over talking only. Thank you.
Well, no. So, and that is a lot of people I've spoken to in one-on-one conversations want to make sure we focus on it being actionable. So that's where I'm encouraging us to send me ideas on the agenda. I'm happy to have, you know, small meetings, you know, with folks. We have to work within our constraints. We can't have a non-agendized meeting, but we can have conversations. I think it's just a travesty. We're going to have the Olympics, and we are going to build this entertainment complex. I've seen what Baltimore, I've seen what other cities have done, and yet we don't have our transportation city looking to have light rail or something, you know, connect the harbor where people would want to go. There's so much opportunity, and I've heard stories too, right? As I'm listening to the history, it used to be in the older days, there are members of my Rotary Club who knew people from downtown LA that would come to the bathhouse, right, and use the beach, right, you know, and these are some social justice issues. We're finding some people from those communities to have less access to our wonderful waterfront because they can no longer get here. They don't have a car. So, you know, I would like us to think about making it, you know, taking some action with a new council, a new mayor, and, you know, just challenging why not, right? Why will there ever be a better time than when all these people are coming to see the Olympics? And how disappointed will they be with our city that they can't come to the water? And to me, that's one of the biggest disappointments for our downtown. It's kind of boring compared to Hong Kong, especially Ms. Chan, or Shanghai, having been to them, right? I've always enjoyed spending time on the water. Any student or any other attendees? You know, again, we would love to hear from you. You just have to raise your hand and I'll hit allow to talk. Emma or Haley? And Alan, you've been hanging in listening. Any comments for us?
No, I'm just enjoying listening.
Okay, well, and I do want to respect your time, so I will try to encourage us to stop in about 5 minutes, but please go ahead, Gwen.
Well, I'm glad that you mentioned the Olympics. That's why I raised my hand again. I believe that this is an opportunity to really push for funding and improvements within this area. Alan Friends, of course, and planning and land use. There's always a push to have native plants restored, trees restored. The entire harbor area needs trees, and I'm sure that Dr. Liu knows the correlation between greenery and cleaner air. I'm hoping that the Olympics, we can seize upon the opportunity for the next 6 years of really pushing that home. And yeah, not just bringing people here, but creating a highlight of an environmentally challenged area turned into something really special. Also, I wanted to mention that on the environmental side of things, off of the port, but the port is going to be involved with this, is that public safety and the environmental committee have traditionally done a big festival in spring and in fall. That would be Wild Fest, which is kind of around the Earth Day, and then another one in fall, Eco Fest. And it's always about everything from this last time we wanted to bring in electric cars for people to drive, electric bikes for people to sample, have everything for resiliency, and actually, we wanted lectures and things about that people can do and get active, youth groups, you name it. So if that's also an opportunity to get involved with environment, with this committee. There's a lot of things that we want to do to teach people about everything that's going on here as well. So.
Yeah, thank you for that plug. And if anybody's interested in volunteering, I know we spoke when, if anybody would like to volunteer, please raise your hand right now. Maybe even, students, if there's an Earth Club, please bring back to San Pedro High School the fact that, can you give us the date of the Eco Fest? That's the fall one.
Well, we are going to be discussing an ad hoc committee. Right now, there is another forum that's coming up related to Peck Park and public safety. The discussions are just going to start. So sometime in November, that's when things are going to start heating up on planning this event. So keep tuned. So
Okay,
hopefully.
So if you're interested, our emails for members of the public are available on the website for Northwest San Pedro Neighborhood Council. Please contact, Ms. Henry, and we will have one more meeting between then and now, but I want to make sure we use this to promote neighborhood council activities. And then again, I've been asked to make, to try to, as chair, make sure we stay crisp and on topic. I'll ask Dr. Liu and, myself, I'll be talking to people in the university, and we have the president of LA Harbor College who had my Rotary Club get the word out. It sounds like you might be looking for environmental type speakers, right, to make that fun. So we can do our part to give you some ideas. You don't always like hearing us professors talk, but sometimes, like I thought Dr. Liu had just the right amount of slides. You weren't boring. I thought you're fantastic. I don't always get that high ratings. So any other comments? Looking to Jason, looking to Mary. I do owe Mary, we'll find a time to talk. I've tried to talk to everybody individually before. I know you're on my list to make sure that we can take some of your actions and ideas, and you'll see those on an agenda. And we'll move them forward for the whole council to take action upon if that's appropriate. But again,
Can I follow up on?
Yeah, of course, please, Pat.
Can I follow up on? I want to follow up on something that Gwen mentioned early in her part in this. The port is as we speak putting together its budget for the next fiscal year, which will start in the middle of next year. They will take it to the board, and the board will consider it in January and in February. Let me make a call to the port and find out their timing and see if we can get some kind of a preliminary view, particularly on what's going to happen with the capital improvement program budget, because that's by far the biggest part of their budget. It's several $100 million, and it gives us a pretty good idea of what they're intending to do. And it might be a good place for us to formulate some requests or thoughts on stuff we want to see happen in the port in the next budget cycle.
All right, thank you.
It's okay with everybody. I'll
please.
let us make that call and see what we can get. Yeah.
Please get the information. And there is a little overlap, those of us attending the Northwest neighborhood, meetings know that we're very concerned about Peck Park with the incident, the shootings that occurred, to name the incident, and how it's just kind of falling apart, and how it has a lot of natural potential. So, if there is some money, and as we're talking about the Olympics, it seems a travesty that pool is still, used more for skateboarders and graffiti than actually helping, people to swim. And the more that park gets used, I think the more people appreciate, environment, and it can be a place to promote some of the goals of this committee. I don't know if the port's part of that solution, but as we're doing our work in other committees, I want to applaud Gwen for that, idea of different outreach. So that's for another idea, Gwen.
In regards to Peck Park, there was a meeting. There seems to be a committee looking to build a foundation and support for restoration of the park and a lot of the good stuff that you just mentioned. So stay tuned.
All right. Well, I think I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. I'll stop the recording and thank everyone, for this kind of first organizing meeting. I'm glad we all showed up. Thank you, Dr. Liu, for being our guest star for this episode.
Thank you.
For your invitation. Thank you, everyone.
All right. So is there a motion?
Yeah, so moved.
All right.